Nigel Edge, the gunman charged of killing 3 people in last year's mass shooting in Southport, is headed back to court tomorrow. The hearing will determine whether the state intends to seek the death penalty against him.
Edge is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, and other offenses. They stem from the attack last September when investigators say Edge fired shots from a boat offshore into the American Fish Company. WECT's Delaney Tarpley looked through Edge's court records and learned more about the hearing tomorrow, called a Rule 24 hearing. What did you find out, Delaney?
Well, John, a Rule 24 hearing is a mandatory pretrial conference in all capital cases. District Attorney John David had said back in September, just one day after that mass shooting, that he intended to seek, quote, maximum justice. And he mentioned the death penalty is a possibility here in North Carolina. Investigators have said Nigel Edge is an Iraq War veteran who suffered from significant mental health issues. But those mental health issues could be the reason if the death penalty is not pursued. A person in North Carolina cannot be sentenced to death if they are deemed mentally incompetent. On the court records portal eCourts, you can see the prosecution and defense exchanging evidence like Edge's prescription records and his VA medical records. These are all things that could paint a picture of Edge's mental health at the time of the shooting. Now, Edge is expected to appear at the Brunswick County Courthouse tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning and will be in the courthouse to report on what happens during that hearing. Delaney Tarpley, WECT News.